Hello everyone. I'm Jiyoon Park from Rutgers University, and I will be presenting about the Korean video game industry, labor organizing, and I know like all the regions show a very different ways of organizing right now. Australia was very different from the North American case, but Korea is also very different from both Australian and North American case. So I think it will be kind of an interesting case. So first, I just want to give you a brief overview of Korean game industry. So like many countries, the video gaming sector is lucrative in South Korean market. It's generating an estimated 17 billion US dollars in 2021. There are 84,000 people employed here. They are primarily standard employees. 92% are standard employees, uh, which is a little bit peculiar because in general, non-standard employment averages around 40% in the broader economy in Korea. However, nonetheless, job security remains low in this sector due to a specific industry structure, and I will explain that a little more in detail later. The government is an active supporter and regulator in this industry, particularly since 1997 financial crisis in Korea. So Korea, the government at that time shifted its focus to tech and cultural sectors as strategic industries to boost the economy. So since the early 2000, it has implemented 5-year master plans to enhance the gaming industry through support for small, medium studios, market diversification, exports, infrastructure, and skill development of game workers. Also, there's a lot of regulations on the market which impacted the direction of video game sector. So, for example, there was a shutdown law of in 2011 that prohibited children under 16 from playing online games between midnight and 6 a.m. And companies were required to develop software to enforce this, placing a burden on smaller studios and leading to a shift toward more casual mobile games as opposed to console and PC games. This act was abolished a couple of years ago, but it had a huge impact on shaping the Korean video game sector. And I'm explaining this because I think some of you know that mobile game platforms add another layer of precarity for developers compared to console platforms because mobile games typically have shorter development time spans, require more frequent and immediate updates, bug fixes to retain players, and face a more competitive market due to lower barriers to entry. Um, the mobile market in South Korea has grown every year and now makes up 64% of the total video game market. Additionally, the industry relies heavily on exports to China, which is a very, very competitive market because there's all international players in China to sell games. It's a big, market, and it puts extra pressure on developers. The market is consolidated a lot. So this chart shows the increasing economic divide between large companies and small to medium-sized enterprises. You can see the profit earnings. This is a little bit outdated, but the profit earnings of the three leading companies account for like 30%, is 30%, while like the small, medium studios profit earnings are like minus. So consequently, the gap between the top three companies, they generate 50% of the total revenue in the sector. So we see a lot of big publishers in Korea have started to bring smaller studios under their wing as subsidiaries. So that's the important structure to keep in mind when unionizing the video game sector in Korea. Meanwhile, somewhat reflecting the worsened working conditions in the sector, there has been increasing positive attitude toward union organizing in the sector. I know this is very small, but this shows that it's like 5 years ago. It's a report in 2019, but overall 45% of the employees thought unions are necessary in their video game company. And this was actually stronger for bigger companies having more than 100 employees. And unlike like in some countries, software programmers who earn well, relatively to QAs or operational staffs, they were also very interested in video game unionizing as well. So here's a quick overview of Korean video game unions. So as of 2024, there are 7 video game unions under the Chemical, Textile, and Food Industry Union, which is part of the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions. So in short, it's KCTU, CFTIU. KCTU is the largest union confederation in Korea. And the CFTIU has about 40,000 members in various industries, including, you can see it in their names, but including petrochemicals, textiles, food, pharmaceuticals, waste management, gas, and now IT and gaming. So you can see like it has a wide variety of industry within the same industrial union. So there's a lot of kind of identity and ideological divergence, and also employment relations divergence within this union. And I'll talk about later what that means for unionizing IT and game workers. Right now, there's 15,000 members from video game unions. So out of 40,000 members in CFTIU, so that accounts for 38% of the CFTIU members. So it suddenly became a large part of the CFTIU. So far, the 3 leading companies in Korea, that's Nexon, Nexon and NCSoft and Netmarble, we call it as 3 Ns, are all unionized. And those are the companies that account for 50% of the total revenue in South Korea game sector. The neighbor, which is an IT giant in Korea, is not a video game company, but it actually inspired all the other video game companies to join the CFTIU. So that's why I put it there. You can see the foundation date established. So the video game unionizing started before the COVID, so from 2018. But it certainly became more active post-COVID because of the huge layoffs that's happening in the video game sector. So in this presentation, I will focus on Nexon, Smilegate, and Excel Games unions, as they were the first key players in starting unionizing the game sector. And they also provide an interesting comparison due to their differing sizes. So Nexon, the total employees of it is like almost 8,000. Smilegate 2,000, Excel Games is 500. And also Nexon and Smilegate are the branches of the CFTIU, while Excel Games is actually a sub-branch of Kakao union branch. So Kakao is also a Korean IT giant company. So Excel Games is a subsidiary of Kakao. So the form is like a sub-branch union. I won't go into the detail for the sake of time, but we can get back to it whenever you have any questions about it. So this is an illustration of unionization model that these video game unions have in mind. So under the CFTIU, each company group is unionized as branches. So you can see these are the employer side, these are the labor side, the union side. So you can see if there's neighbor union, Nexon union, Smilegate union, Kakao and Kakao union, like that. Under these branches, there's a lot of subsidiaries within each of these companies, right? So for example, there's Neopol Union. Neopol company is a subsidiary of Nexon. So we so Neopol Union would be a sub-branch union. Excel Games is, as I said, subsidiary of Taco. So it's a sub-branch union, union right now. So collective bargaining is conducted at the enterprise level. So like Nexon Union will do collective bargaining with Nexon. However, since these like subsidiary unions are sub-branches of the upper level company union, the leaders of the upper level union are involved in collective bargaining for their subsidiaries as well. So for Neopol Union doing collective bargaining process with the Neopol company, like the Nexon union leader will be kind of involved and help them to make a proper collective bargaining. So this video game employer association, it doesn't exist yet, but it's just like, but a lot of like the video game unions wanted the employers to form a video game employer association so they can start doing industrial level collective bargaining, the multi-employer collective bargaining. So they can address like industrial level regulations and really like boost the sectoral level wages and welfare. So this is like very diverse types of like collective bargaining are in mind are in mind of the video games. So with this background, now I want to dive into a little deeper and kind of descriptive analysis on how the three video game unions got unionized and what resources they use to collectively bargain with their employers and what are the ongoing challenges they face. So there has been always latent injustice perceptions among video game workers. So first, developers with even though they have standard employment, they face employment insecurity. So this is like kind of a typical industrial structure, organizational structure of a game company. So there's a big publishing company on the top, which is a parent company, which has multiple game development studios as its subsidiaries. And a worker explained me like this. So in a gaming company, it's structured like there are many small startup companies within the large organization. So when a game project is canceled, in the broadcasting industry, employees are usually reassigned to another project. However, in a gaming company, when a project is canceled, people tend to perceive it as if their company is disappeared altogether. So this perception leads to issues such as voluntary resignations and turnover. So you're not really like assigned to another project or another game project, but you have to write the application and do the job interviews again to get into the other subsidiaries. So that's why even though there are standard employees, they still face a lot of labor mobility, turnover, and job insecurity like that. There's also problems of comparative wage system. This is, I think, Korean system, which was responsible for the unpaid overwork. So CWS is a blanket wage system in which all allowances, including overtime pay and holiday work allowances, are set in advance, regardless of actual working hours. So no matter how long you work, all overwork pay is included in your preset salary. So because the video game companies are so flexible in their organizational structure, so that's GWS is the system that kind of pushed developers to do like unpaid overwork. And there's unsystematic HRM and reward system here because the HR is very weak in these kind of non-bureaucratic organizations. However, so there were these kind of latent injustice perceptions always. There were a lot of suicides from doing overwork. That's from overwork as well. But the critical event that spurred unionization comes from the government, actually. So to combat the long working hours, the pro-labor Korean government revised the labor regulations to restrict the working hours to 52 hours per week. And to revise the work scheme to comply this new labor regulation, the company elected employee representatives. So in Nexon, 3 representatives were elected for revising the work scheme with the management. And the employee delegates experienced negative interactions with the management who are treating this negotiation process ceremonial. So that made these like three representatives to start a union. When the 3 representatives met, they noticed that the reward system is not systematic. So because like they talked about their own salary to each other, and they noticed that okay, HR is not, it doesn't make sense. Like the reward doesn't make sense. So we have to do something. So that's kind of spurred their unionizing. So I want to talk a little bit about the resources that help them to build a union. So in Korea, technically, it's very simple to form a union. Theoretically, workers can form a union with only 2 members. But more importantly, there was a presence. So, which is the Naver Union, the IT giant company, unionized under KCTU just before Nexon. So Naver provided material and immaterial resources to Nexon for unionization. So that was really a key point how they got resources from unionization. Also, this is Pangyo Techno Valley, where all the IT and the video games are situated. So this is like a Korean version of Silicon Valley. Red flags are the video game companies and IT companies that are unionized. So you can see that they are very close to each other. Oh, I can give you the slides. I'm running out of time, but I want to also stress out there was a strategic use of discursive resources. So compared to other sections in the union, video game unions have very high visibility to the public. So, and a lot of politicians were interested in video game sector as well, because a lot of citizens were interested in it. So they use press conferences to call for special labor inspection on video game companies, bullying employees to sign voluntary registration. You can see the second picture is like a congressperson asking questions to one of the Smilegate representatives during Parliament's audit of state affairs. Also, because there's a negative public sentiment on unions in Korea, video game unions try to distance themselves from traditional militant image of unions. So that's why, like, if you go to Nexon, they decorated its union office with toys and the World of Warcraft flag. And a flag in Smilegate Union office says like, we're summoning guild members, and they put like cute cat image because they think the cute cats wins everything. So, but I know I'm running out of time, so I think I have to skip a lot of parts, but I'm happy to answer if you have questions. So structural power, it's a little bit kind of, I'm trying to think through this more, but during COVID, of course, like there was like tight labor market and high mobility, which helped workers to have like kind of a bargaining power. But because like they have like weak HR, and like team leaders who are also the union members have more like discretion over new project member acceptance. So it made kind of unions have to kind of persuade their own team leaders, their own members to address like employment insecurity. And sometimes they actually advocate for promoting HR representatives to make them as a position of power to be appropriate CB counterpart. So what are the outcomes? Just to state it very briefly, they abolished comprehensive wage system. They improved the 3 months, improved the employment security by enforcing like reassignments. like that. So the wage got higher and they had a little bit more of employment security after a series of like collective bargaining. And the sectoral level, they experience salary increase, and so on. There's still ongoing challenges. Can I use 1 more minute? There's ongoing, sorry, there's ongoing challenges. So because there's unstable union membership due to the organizational flexibility, so it's like union has to respond to these constant restructuring as a case by case analysis, which gives a lot of burden on the union leaders. The deep organizing and leadership reproduction is always a problem. And union leaders would say, actually, it might be faster to perform poorly in your role and get impeached to change the leadership. So my dream is to be impeached. They will say things like that. There's also internal, external tensions because of the differing ideological lines within the union and between the society and the union. So for example, there like one time Nexon union members were in conflict with Umbrella Union over stance on feminism. So there was extreme gamers who organized to pressure employers to dismiss the female workers who support feminism. And the upper level union made a announcement of support, and then the Nexon union members were a little bit angry about that. So there's like tensions around that. There was tensions around that. So I'll end it here. I'm so sorry I over the time, but I'm happy to talk more during the Q&A.